waking me up. The face of an old friend you haven't seen in years. Stories turn to songs and laughter to tears. These things aren't a given, they're a gift to behold. Like the first leaves of autumn, and our breath in the cold.
Good morning, everyone, or good evening, or good night, wherever you may be in the world while you're watching. In today's episode, we're going to be photographing Shenandoah National Park. Came in here for sunrise, didn't really find a shot for actual sunrise, but finally found this shot that you watch me take here as the sun is definitely up a bit. Beautiful morning. It rained yesterday, which is why I came into here thinking there would be more clouds here in the valley because of the moisture in the air. Didn't really get that, but still exploring around. This is I believe, don't quote me on it, I'll put the actual mileage on the screen, 117-mile drive in a national park. It's more like an extension of the Blue Ridge Parkway. I'll be completely honest, so far it feels like exactly the same. Haven't driven that much of it, only came in a little bit. Gonna go back to town, get some work done this morning, and then come back in for sunset, and then probably do the whole drive within this episode. So stay tuned for that. This morning was just a little tease, if you will. So here are the images I just took, or that I'm gonna get throughout the morning. Maybe we'll find some more stuff as I'm driving around, catches my eye. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for joining along with my journey, and see you in a bit.
Sometimes all you need is gratitude. Try and hold on to your hands in the garden. The smile of a child swimming in the river, walking the last sweet mile. First crack of thunder, the heavenly rain.
Don't judge me. Go with the flatter. Sounds pretty. Uh-oh. Oh, it's full.
All that gets taken, and all that remains. These things aren't a given, they're a gift to behold. Like the first said.
Okay, haven't driven very far because kind of just been waiting for the light to get a little bit better. It's about 5:30, almost 6 o'clock. Sun sets at around 8 o'clock. And now the light is starting to get, well, as you can tell, still pretty harsh, but now is the time that I want to drive and start looking for compositions to possibly shoot for sunset here in Shenandoah, I'm gonna get this, Shenandoah National Park. Pretty sure that's correct. So, I'm gonna get back in Ross here and get moving. It is windy.
Like the first sip of whiskey and dancing real slow. Isn't that what matters most?
All right, the conditions for big vista shots isn't super great right now. There's no clouds in the sky, and I can only shoot layered mountain shots so much. So I stopped here on the side of the road to take this nice green forest shot for some intentional camera movement. Trying to get creative, not something I do very often, but the way the light was catching a lot of the leaves caught my eye, and a lot of the times for intentional camera movement, the little bit that I know about it is it's more about the light patterns and the patterns of the trees or whatever you're taking. I'm not sure I really got anything, but I'll at least show you one of my favorite shots from what I just did. It's a lot of just taking a shot and moving the camera over and over again and hoping you get something that looks like you want it. I was looking for different compositions, but I'll be completely transparent. It's something I'm still learning, something I'm still trying. It's why I actually got out to shoot some, because the only way I'm gonna know what works and what doesn't work is by getting out and trying. So that's what we just did. Not sure we'll get anything else for sunset, but thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. Here's the shot.
The heartbeats of time, the songbird and the willow, and the wind in the pines. Try and hold on to gratitude. Sometimes all you need is gratitude. Just trying to hold on to it.
Okay, something absolutely incredible happened last night. I photographed the Aurora here in Virginia, in Shenandoah National Park. For perspective, I'm only like 80 miles from Washington, D.C. It's crazy. I have traveled to different parts of the world to try to just see or photograph the Aurora and struggled. And it was just happened to be an insane KP last night. It was all across America for the most part. But seeing it this low in Virginia is, I mean, I don't know the actual factual statements, but I have to imagine extremely rare. Honestly, one of the most incredible things about it was I wouldn't have known about it if it wasn't for some really loyal supporters in my Discord channel. Both Adam and Levi have been following me for years. They started talking about it in the Discord channel last night. I was literally just parked, about to go to sleep, laying in the back of the car, and Adam asked about it in the Discord, and I didn't know anything about it because I don't keep up with the news or anything like that. And Levi responded saying he was going to go try to shoot it, and I was like, I wonder if I could see it in Virginia. So I checked my Aurora app, and there was a little green band above me, and I was like, well, maybe I could see it off in the distance. So then 20 minutes of me asking, I was up here at this spot that I'm sitting in right now, and I caught it. I didn't get any crazy, amazing shots or anything wild because I was just scrambling for compositions of things to silhouette with it. But I photographed the Aurora in Shenandoah National Park in Virginia. And the most incredible thing about it is that it's thanks to people like you. It's thanks to the people that watch me and have followed me along for years, and I would have never known about it if it wasn't for you guys. So thank you. Also, if this is not enough incentive to get in the Discord channel and just hang out and talk about photography, life, or anything like that, I don't know what is. Anyways, we're going to continue along. I didn't shoot sunrise or anything this morning because I just didn't wake up for it because I was up pretty late last night. And we're just going to continue along Shenandoah, Skyline Drive, seeing the rest of what it has to offer. I don't necessarily know if it's going to get better than Aurora, though. Just incredible. Ugh. Hey, pardon the interruption. I just want to say thank you for all the support. And if you wanted to help support me in more ways than just liking and subscribing to this channel, you can do that with a little link down below where you can find things like my Patreon. Patreon is a really great way to help support me living on the road full time and making content like this. You can get credit at the end of every video for helping support me. You get access to raw edits that I do from time to time. You can even get a postcard from me once a month. So check that out down below. You can also check out my Lightroom editing companion. Maybe you're a photographer and you want a more linear workflow directly built into Lightroom. You can also find that in the link. You can find things like my workshops, you can find things like prints, or anything in between. All of it helps, and if you can't do any of that, just sharing this video with someone in your family or a loved one that might be interested in travel or anything of that nature. Let's get back to the video. Okay, I finally made it to the visitor center to pick up my traditional patch of visiting the national parks. I try to get a patch at all the ones that I visit. And something that I've been wondering is why this park exists. Like, what is the reasoning? And that's because, you know, when I go to a place like Yosemite or Zion or Glacier, you go and you're like, well, I can see why this is a national park. Whereas here, as gorgeous as it is, it doesn't seem very different than something like the Blue Ridge Parkway, which I drove for over 200 miles. And I didn't really know the history of this park. To be completely honest, I didn't even know this park existed until I got up here. So there you go. Just admitting my ignorance. So in there, I learned quite a few things. First of all, that this came before the Blue Ridge Parkway, and that this is what kind of started what the Blue Ridge Parkway became. But this place became a park because the chairman of the National Park Service, the first guy, wanted a park in the east of the Mississippi that was similar to the parks that had been established in the west. But they didn't know where to do one, they didn't know where to make it, and they also wanted one ideally close to Washington, D.C. So somehow they convinced Herbert Hoover to come up here and fish for trout. That was a thing. So he fished for trout up here, and they convinced him that we should have a national park over here. And they didn't really know where it was going to be yet, so they had to start surveying land. And then these groups got together and started campaigning for the land to become the national park. And it's a pretty long story. Obviously, there's more history there. But they ended up deciding on this area, Shenandoah, that is currently what the national park is. And they even had to evict residents of that area to make this a national park. That's how this place became a park. And the Blue Ridge Parkway was actually created to connect Shenandoah to the Great Smoky Mountains, which also had just become a park slightly after Shenandoah did. Really interesting. Also, all of the people that built and worked on the park to develop it were hired, most of them, through the programs that the New Deal created to create jobs after the Great Depression or during the Great Depression. Super interesting. Now that's why this is a park, is because they wanted something in the east to match something in the west. There you go. Hope that history lesson was interesting to you. It was definitely interesting to me. That's how this place became a national park. All right. We are going to try to shoot sunset tonight somewhere, so stay tuned for that.
Thinking about where I should be now. Thought I have it all figured out. Everyone here so loud. They don't know their way around. Just stick to the crowd.
I've stepped away from the falls a little bit so you can actually hear me talk. It's a very tough composition to find. When I walked up, obviously, I was thinking wide angle, put the wide angle on, went up and down the waterfall, trying to find a particular shot that I liked. The issue is all of them felt flat. And this is something I'm going to talk about in a more formal video where I talk about ways to take waterfalls or better ways to take waterfalls. I haven't come up with the title yet, still work in progress. But it's going to talk about how your compositions, even though they're two-dimensional in your photo, you can make them look three-dimensional with how you use your composition and how you use the waterfall to flow through the image. And I don't just mean a leading line, because even if you take a flat image, you can have the waterfall flowing from top left to bottom right or something like that. It's kind of hard to explain while I'm standing here and I don't have any examples to show you. But what I'm trying to articulate is that when you're using a wide angle lens, there are particular shots you can take that have depth and dimension in them, even though you're staring at a 2D image. And a lot of the images I was finding with my wide angle here just felt flat. It felt like there was no foreground, middle ground, and background. It just felt like I was looking at a flat waterfall that led my eye through the image, but it just didn't feel 3D, if that makes sense. And it will make sense whenever I make that video. So I switched to my telephoto and tried to get a little bit more creative. What's funny is I think I ended up just taking another flat image of the waterfall, but the bottom half of the frame might be filled with some out of focus rocks that I felt like added a little bit of a cool element, some depth, but I'm not really sure if it actually turned out. I was taking a 3-shot pano just because I wanted to fit extra in the frame in case I wanted to reframe it. That made the shot a little bit more complicated because the sun was going in and out of clouds a lot. It's actually why I'm standing here. All of the light has left the valley here, so I'm not really getting the shots that I want now, which means I can talk to you. So you watch me take that shot, you watch me do the pano using a polarizer and a, I believe, 6-stop ND so that I could shoot at f4 so that those rocks in the foreground were out of focus. Not sure the shot is gonna work, but I'll show it to you regardless. I hope you enjoy. I'm gonna get back to the car. We're gonna go see what we can do for sunset.
I keep myself up at night. I used to sleep just fine when I was but a child. Some days I feel alright, and others I could cry if it weren't for my pride. I've been wondering a little bit, can't seem to find where I fit in this. I'd be lying if I ever said I'm never stressed. Why can't I get out my head? What's all the worrying for?
All right, well, we finally got the conditions that we've been looking for. Problem is, I just couldn't find a composition I liked. Drove around, looked around, stopped, paused, kept looking, didn't really see anything. Came here, I was like, I could probably find better. Went back, didn't find anything better, and eventually had to audible and immediately turn around because if I wasn't gonna come back here, I was gonna miss it completely. So I just shot this image with the sun directly in the middle of the frame. These in the foreground had a foreground element. I really couldn't find any actual foreground element that I wanted. That's what I was looking for. Would have been great to find a nice tree like we had in the last episode, but couldn't find it. Still beautiful. I'll still show you the shot, but that's probably gonna wrap up this video. It's probably getting kind of long at this point. So as always, you can like the video if you liked it. Consider subscribing if you loved it. It's gotta be some rainbows out there somewhere. Just gotta go find them. Later.
Can't take it no